Okay.
In the shadows of the light, are those gifts of candy?
It could be. So we are about ready to be live and in person-ish, except I think that there are more people not in person watching tonight than we have in person tonight because there's terrible weather and tornado warnings and things. But just in case, we have a minion tonight. So for those of you who are worried that we were going to start a service without a minion, I just wanted to point out that we always have a minion with us. Let's see if this little guy will stay here. Just stay, fella. There's a Velcro thing over there that might... There he goes. He's good. He'll stay over on that side. I'll be there in a second. He's going to help me light candles in a moment. All right. There are a few things we have to do tonight. We're counting the Omer. Anybody remember where we are tonight for the Omer? I think we're 27 today, 26, 27. I have 27. It was 26 today. It's 27 starting tonight. We officially start tomorrow when we light the candles. So for Shabbat, we get to start early. That's a traditional law. You're allowed to start Shabbat early. You just shouldn't try to start it late. It's not very cool to be lighting fires and things after Shabbat has already started. That's one of the kinds of work that's forbidden. You know how you decide what's work? It says, Kol malacha lo tasu, you're not supposed to do any malacha. You know how you decide what's malacha? So one way, this is for the linguist in me, one way is that you look in the Torah for all of the other places where it says malacha. And then you say, well, that must be malacha because it says it's malacha. One is that it says that God rested on the seventh day from doing whatever God's work was for those first 6 days. So what was it that God did? And God was doing this really cool thing. God was creating out of nothing. I don't get to do that very often. But some of the ways that it feels like we do it is, for example, when you light a fire, there was no fire, and now there's a fire. It's not about having to rub sticks together, and it's not about how many calories you burn. That's not what determines work. It has to do more with changing the way things are in the world. So writing, if you have a blank piece of paper and there was nothing on it, and now there's something on it, that's not supposed to happen on Shabbat either. If you erase in order to write, that's not supposed to happen either. Then there's the things like sewing and doing things in your field and whatever, out in the field and stuff. But take it seriously. Try to figure out ways that you can make Shabbat a different day if you can. One of the ways for some people is to come to services, like our Armenian friend. He came to services. And we have other people here tonight. But you can make Shabbat sometimes wherever you are. There's a cool thing about Shabbat, and that is some cool things about Shabbat. Another is that sometimes you make Shabbat, which is a thing that you do to have Shabbat happen, and sometimes it's what you don't do that makes Shabbat happen. So I like to sometimes think about those things, the things that I refrain from doing in order to make it Shabbat, and sometimes the things that I do in order to make it Shabbat. So for us, in order to make it Shabbat, one of the things that we need to do is leave the stresses outside. Max, we've got lots of popping going on. So this is what we did last time, was we turned down the gain on this guy right here. Try that. See if that helps. So one of the things that we do here is we leave our stressors outside. We bring our friends inside, and we take a deep breath. Take a deep breath, and because we can, and let it out slowly. Take a deep breath, and let it out slowly. I think you're okay still. I don't think he's coming in. Oh, yes, he is. So we are going to have a wonderfully fulfilling and possibly briefer than normal service because of the fact that we're expecting some terrible rain, and I don't want to keep anybody here with the terrible rain. So we're moving over to here. We're going to do some candle blessing. Page 82, our tradition is, here goes our minion again. Our tradition is that we stand for this. There you go. And we read together, page 82. These lights are only flickering flames, yet flames illumine our uncertain steps. Flames remind us of Sabbaths long past and of their beauty that delighted our hearts. May they inspire us to work for the great Sabbath of peace. I'm going to do it in Hebrew. If you need it in English, please look at the English translation too. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And you look at them and they become Shabbat candles. I want you to look at each other. I want you to bless each other. I want you to say, may you be like Ephraim and Menashe and Sarah, Rivka, Leah, and Rachel. And you may be seated. And I forgot my prayer book.
What she said.
What I said.
What you
May
said.
you be blessed. For some reason, one of the blessings we're supposed to say is, may you be like Ephraim and Menashe. And most people who grew up in, I'm going to go there, most people who grew up in the Reform movement say, wait, what? Who? Who are Ephraim and Menashe? And I mean, like, the women get to be blessed like Sarah, and Rebecca, and Rachel, and Leah. I know who they were, but who's Menashe and Ephraim? Anybody remember? Joseph's kids in Egypt. So why are we blessing everybody to be like Joseph's kids in Egypt? Because if you look, out of all of the siblings in the Torah, they're the first ones that we don't see a lot of rivalry between them. Up until now, there was lots of rivalry. That's one. Another is they grew up and they lived successful Jewish lives outside of the Promised Land. And most of us are doing that as well. So whatever it is you can take from the story about having good siblings or living a good life, take that and bless each other with that. We are going to continue with a song on page 84. And I don't know what's making the popping noises, and I'm sorry. Yeah, no, that wasn't the solution then. Amen.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlakim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Molechem l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem l'Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And we're going to continue on page 85 with what's called the Reader's Kaddish. It's also called the Chatzi Kaddish in Hebrew. Chatzi means half of a Kaddish because it's the shortest of all the Kaddishes. It's only this big. Do you know what language it's written in? Aramaic. It's not in Hebrew. It looks like Hebrew characters. The Reader's Kaddish is usually led by whoever's reading the service. The Kaddish comes in as kind of dividing segues between each section of the service. We go from the preliminary service, which puts us in the mood for prayer and welcomes Shabbat on Friday nights, and then we go to the next part of the service. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה,
אמן.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה בעגלה ובזמן קריב ומרו אמן. יהא שמי רבה מברך לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה ומרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
The next prayer is supposed to be something that reminds us about creation. Oh God, how can we know you? Where can we find you? You are as close to us as breathing, yet you are farther than the farthermost star. You are as mysterious as the vast solitudes of night, yet as familiar to us as the light of the sun. To Moses you said, "You cannot see my face, but I will make all my goodness pass before you." Even so does your goodness pass before us, in the realm of nature and in the joys and sorrows of life. When justice burns within us like a flaming fire, when love evokes willing sacrifice from us, when to the last full measure of selfless devotion we demonstrate our belief in the ultimate triumph of truth and righteousness, then your goodness enters our lives and we can begin to change the world. And then you live within our hearts, and we, through righteousness, behold your presence. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated, or you could stay standing. Ve'ahavta Shema are all one big happy prayer. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. And instead of reading this whole thing, because we're trying to let my people go quick soon today, I would like to read on 89. The second paragraph in Hebrew comes from a different section of the Torah than the Shema and the Ve'ahavta. And I want you to look at this because it's related to the Torah portion, and I love what this says. And this is and we don't see it in the English, we see it only in the Hebrew. In the English, the Ve'ahavta paragraph is talking to you as an individual. But in the second paragraph, where it says Lema'an Tizkaru, it's talking to you as a group. And I want you to think about whether when you're being spoken to as a group and told to do something, Do you feel personally responsible too? Or do you feel like it's let somebody else do it? So let's read what it says on 89 about the translation for the Lama'an Tizkaru, and I want you to remember that this is about all y'all, as we like to say. All you guys, something like that. Be mindful of all my mitzvot and do them. So shall you consecrate yourselves to your God. I am your eternal God, who led you out of Egypt to be your God. I am your eternal God. And I want you to especially think about this is how you consecrate yourselves. That means this is how you make yourselves holy for God. That's what the Torah portion is about too. I, the Eternal One, have called you to righteousness, taken you by the hand and kept you. I have made you a covenant people, a light to the nations.
We are Israel, witness to the covenant between God and God's children.
This is the covenant I make with Israel. I will place my Torah in your midst and write it upon your hearts. I will be your God, and you shall be my people.
We are Israel. Our Torah forbids the worship of race or nation, possessions or power.
You who worship gods that cannot save you, hear the words of the Eternal One. I am God, there is none else.
We are Israel. Our prophets proclaimed an exalted vision for the world.
Hate evil, love what is good. Let justice well up as waters and righteousness as a mighty stream. Just wait till we get home.
We are Israel, schooled in the suffering of the oppressed.
You shall not oppress your neighbors nor rob them. You shall not stand idle while your neighbor bleeds.
We are Israel, taught to beat swords into plowshares,
I want you to think-
commanded to pursue peace.
I want you to let me be quiet for a second. I want you to think about all of these commandments, about what it means to be holy. I want you to think about if it's something that you do. Is it something that you can do alone, or does it require us to be part of a y'all to do some of these things? And I'm sorry, I spoke too soon. Violence, which as you know here is Hamas, shall no longer be heard in your land. Desolation and destruction within your borders. All your children will be taught of your God, and great shall be the peace of your children.
We are Israel, O God, when we are witnesses to your love and messengers of your truth.
You are my witnesses, says the Eternal One, and my servant whom I have chosen. Know me therefore and put your trust in me.
We are Israel, O God, when we proclaim you, God our Redeemer, as
As
did our ancestors
on the shores of the Red Sea.
Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedav hakodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la.
V'ne'emar, and it has been said, the Eternal One delivered Jacob and redeemed us from the hand of one stronger than ourselves. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. We praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. Page 92. This is a prayer that we say only at night, because when things get darker, it's a little bit more intimidating, and it helps us to hear this. May we lie down this night in peace and rise up to life renewed. O God, spread over us your shelter of peace, of quiet and calm, and bless us with rest. And let a time come when morning will bring no word of war, or famine, or anguish, or health problems, or floods, a time of happiness, of contentment and rest. We give thanks for the night and its rest, and the promise of peace for all the world. Vishameru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. You know what a nefesh is? It's your soul. And that last word where it says shavat means he rested, vayinafash, and he was re-souled. Not like a shoe, like what happens after Shabbat if you really do get to rest. I love that. Resting and refreshing. And that refreshing word means you get kind of a revitalization of your soul. I love that idea. Max, can you see how many people are watching on YouTube now? I've been treating this as if we have a minion. Okay, this is good. We do have a minion. So we can continue on page 93 with the part of the service that's called the tefillah, which means the worship part, or the prayer part, or the standing part. So I ask you to stand on page 93 for the Amidah. Sometimes it was called Shmona Esrei, which means the 18 benedictions, but on Shabbat it's a little bit more low. 93. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, ve'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Ve'koneh HaKol, Ve'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula livnei v'nehem, L'ma'an Shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshia u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, ve'Ezrat Sarah. In the middle of 94, the translation says, God of all generations, of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, of Sarah, Rebekah, Leah, and Rachel, be praised. Your wondrous creative power fills heaven and earth. God of life and death, be praised. Through us, send help to the falling, healing to the sick, freedom to the captive. Confirm your faithfulness to those who sleep in the dust. Awesome and holy God, be praised. With acts of love and truth, we hallow your name. As it is said in our Torah portion today, it says, Y'all be holy, for I, your eternal God, am holy. God of times and seasons, be praised. Enable us through Sabbath rest to explore and learn and impart the meanings of your Torah. Make our hearts ready to serve you this day and all days. And you may be seated. We continue at the top of 96. God who answers prayer, be praised. May we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you, in this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God. Source of life and its wonders, be praised. You are the miracle within all we behold. You are goodness. You are compassion. We give thanks to you forever. We're going to say something about peace also, below the Hebrew. God of peace, of justice, and of love, be praised. Inspire us to banish forever hatred, war, and bloodshed. Help us to establish forever one human family united in peace. God of peace, bless us with peace.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol ha-shalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol ha-shalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. V'tov be'enecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'kol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
Take a moment now, silent prayer. Whatever you came with that was in your heart, now is the time. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer. Now comes the part where we have a little quiz. What day are we at the Omer now that the sun is pretending to already have gone down? 27. So we count, according to the Torah, we're supposed to count 7 times 7 weeks, and they have to be complete, and they have to count until the day after the 7th week. So we count the days and the weeks. The blessing, we say, starts off similar to the blessing for candles because we are fulfilling a mitzvah. God made us holy by giving us the commandments, and this time we are commanded about counting the Omer. And we say that blessing, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat haomer. Praised are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe. You make us holy by giving us commandments. You commanded us about counting the Omer. In Hebrew we say, Hayom Shiva ve'esrim yom shehem shlosha shavuot ve'shisha yamim la'omer. Today is the 27th day of making it 3 weeks and 6 days of the Omer. Ha, I did that, 3 weeks and 6 days. That was hard. Did I do that? Yes, I did. I did that right. We've been doing a lot of flying fingers with this class because I do a lot of counting. So it goes like this. Abracadabra, poof. Kama zeh? Achat. Kama zeh? Efes. And then we do abracadabra, poof. Kama zeh? Achat. Kama zeh? Efes. Fingers are magic in this place, I just have to tell you. So we do a lot of counting things now. And I look at my hands, and sometimes it's not what I thought I had. So I'm glad that it was working better than it normally does. At this time, our hearts and our prayers turn to those who are ill or recuperating, as we turn to the inside back cover of our prayer books. And I invite you to call out names of people for whom you would like us to be praying for healing or strength at this time, if you have anyone you want to call out. For all the names that we call out, for all the names that we hold in our hearts, we pray together. Oh God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Baruch atah Adonai, Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health. And it has become our tradition to add, Misheberach avotenu ve'imotenu, may the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we've entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom, protecting us, healing us, serving us, in this country, in the land of Israel, everywhere they've been called to serve. Give them courage to succeed and strength to persevere. May they return home safely, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
So the commercial for tomorrow's Torah study, which is only on Zoom this week again for another one, soon. We'll be back in person soon, but not for tomorrow. The Torah portion includes, it's Acharei Mot, which talks a little bit about some of the guidelines about what happened after Aaron's sons died. But it's predominantly about Kedoshim, about holiness. The second, it's a double portion. The second portion is called Kedoshim, it's the holiness code. And it includes some glorious things. Up until now, it feels like Leviticus is mostly about the details about what kind of slaughtering we had to do and offerings we had to do. And now we finally get some ideas about being holy by doing things that feel meaningful. So I asked questions before about that. When you are thinking about what it means to be holy, does it feel like a personal commandment to you that you have to be holy? Or does it feel like something that you do because you're part of something that's a bigger group that's holy? And then if you're part of something that's a bigger group that's holy, does that ever make you feel like, well, I don't have to worry about it? Like, so what if I don't do Shabbat this week? Everybody else is doing it, so we're good, right? God's going to hold on to us. God's not going to let us go. I think it goes both ways. I think that one of the glorious things about Judaism, the Reform movement makes everybody have to make decisions about what you do and how do you choose to be holy. But it has taken on as a personal responsibility and as a movement, social action things, how we interact with other people. I think that you'll find that a lot of Reform Jews are not necessarily as caught up in the day-to-day rituals necessarily as the day-to-day how we deal with each other. I think a lot of people look at Reform Judaism like that. I'm not sure. But I want to point out that things like coming to services, making sure we have a minyan, that's one of the things we have to do, because the truth is, in being holy, it's more about what we do for each other than it is the one-on-ones. Both are important, and it's more about one of the ways of dividing up the mitzvot, all of the commandments, one of the ways of, you know that there's the positive and negative commandments, but one of the ways of dividing it is that you can put some into a category of what we do for God, and another category is what we do for each other. And when I'm thinking about being holy, it's not necessarily about lighting candles all by myself. It's about being with other people. It's about how we take care of each other. When that group came last week, the confirmation class, I tell them that, it blows their mind when I tell them that we don't only have 10 commandments, that we have 613, and I point out, look, there's lots of commandments that you do that are not in the top 10, like loving your neighbor as yourself, like all the ones we just read in the Ve'ahavta, loving God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your being, and teaching them to your children, all those things. That's a lot of commandments right there in that paragraph. But it's not just that. And one of my favorite commandments is the one about, and I'm sure I've said this many, many times, but it informs me about how we're supposed to think about the world. One of them is that I'm supposed to always feed my animal before I feed myself. My animal relies on me, and I have to feed them first. It's not fair, no matter how hungry I am, that I first make sure I have food and not the animal. And to me, that's being holy, is not just thinking about yourself. Or not sleeping on your workers' wages. That blows my mind. Every time I see that, that just blows my mind. If somebody comes and mows the lawn for me, it's their money, it's not my money. How come I think that I get to go to sleep and still have it when they've already done the work? And the Torah tells us, this is what you have to do. If I hadn't figured out already for myself, the Torah says this is what you have to do to be holy. And obviously, that's just one little thing that you do. But to me, that spells out a lot of what it means to be holy. How we think about taking care of each other. One of the things, though, that we learn is that we're supposed to be holy in a group. It's the y'all, be holy because I'm holy. And we're commanded often in the plural. It's hard to be holy by yourself if there are no other people around for you to be doing good things for or doing good things with. And this year has been horrible because a lot of time we had to feel like we had to be isolated in order to protect each other. That's what being holy was for us this year. And it is so foreign to what we need to do. We're supposed to celebrate with bride and groom, and many weddings were postponed until after all this. We're supposed to accompany the dead to the grave, and funerals happened in lonely ways this year. And that, I don't understand. I don't understand how God lets these things happen. But I've learned an awful lot about what it means to be part of a community, even when we're staying apart and protecting each other by staying apart. We have lots of people who watch online. We have lots of people. I hope that you join us tonight on the Zoom, because we have lots of people who join us on Zoom. My brother celebrated a 60th birthday today. We can't be together. We're in many, many, many states. But we got to spend time, and we got to actually celebrate with him. He and lots of friends and things. It's something that we've got now, that even when we are apart, we have found a way to stay holy and stay together and be there for each other. So I hope that you continue to find those ways of being holy and not separate yourself from the community, because it's kind of impossible to be holy if you're all by yourself. So try. Madam President, what would you like us to know about how this holy congregation is doing holy congregational things and being holy? I'm trying, I'm going fast.
Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. Tonight we'll be having an Omer Shabbat online. Give Rabbi about 30 minutes after service ends to start the Zoom. Tomorrow, the 9:45 a.m. Torah study and 11 a.m. service will only be on Zoom. We have religious school and Hebrew classes this week. I think this is the second to last week of religious school. Saturday morning, May 1st, we will celebrate with the family of Ainsley Toys and Justin Rutkowski when they are called to the Torah to give their baby his Hebrew name. Services will be in the sanctuary. There will not be Torah study that particular morning, and the service will begin at 10:30. Craig and Georgette are the proud grandparents. Note that the deadline for purchasing cemetery plots before the price increases is April 30th. That's next week. Use the form or call the office to receive details. Mark your calendars for the annual meeting. The morning of May 16th, the shredding truck will be at B'nai Zion later in May. We also will have confirmation, graduation, Shabbat, bat mitzvah, and special guest lecture by Dr. Joel Hoffman and more. Lots coming up. The best way to find details about upcoming events is in your email, the one call, or online at the B'nai Zion website. Donations were made to B'nai Zion Sisterhood Flower Fund in loving memory of Lisa Gay Arnold by Mimi Miriam, in loving memory of Joe Murrow by Susan Murrow, and in loving memory of Flo Selber by Sam Silverblad. Each week after the flowers are used for Shabbat services, The sisterhood delivers them to someone special. Donations can be made easily online or by mailing or calling into the office. Stay safe, stay dry. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. We continue with the Aleinu on page 148. And MJ's not coming, huh? That's good. We're good. I saw him. I get to Shabbat Shalom him. I will invite you to please rise as the ark is open, page 148 for the Aleinu, because we have a minion sitting right there. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer b'reshit, shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot, velo samanu כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורר עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. And on the facing page we sing, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו When the ark is closed, you may be seated. Bye, Doras. We continue on page 151. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We include the fact that we have lost 2 people in our military this year, 103 police officers this year, including 55 COVID-related deaths, 3 canine officers, 39 firefighters, including 13 who were COVID-related. As you know, Louisiana has already lost over 10,300 people. Caddo Parish has lost over 730 people. The United States has lost about 570,000 people. Healthcare workers in the United States, we've lost over 5,600. And in the world, we have lost over 3,073,000 people. Usually by the time that I announce it, the numbers are significantly higher. I want you to remember that to lose one life is as if we've lost an entire world. May we not lose sight of the enormity of the loss of so many individual lives. We honor these memories of the people who died this year. May their memories be a blessing, and may their families be consoled. As we remember them, let us meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We turn to page 153. Life is finite. Like a candle, it burns, it glows, it's radiant with warmth and beauty. Then it fades. Its substance is consumed and it is no more. In light we see, in light we are seen. The flames dance and our lives are full. But as night follows day, the candle of our life burns down in gutters. There's an end to the flames. We see no more and are no more seen. Yet we do not despair, for we are more than a memory slowly fading into the darkness. With our lives we give life. Something of us can never die. We move in the eternal cycle of darkness and death, of light and life. However brief may be our time on earth, O God, you endow our fleeting days with abiding worth. We now recall the loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. We remember the parents of congregants who've died this past year, Abry Can Jr., Tommy Crowder, Sophie Lipo, Robert Talbert, Joseph Paris, Artis Robison, George Rothkopf. And as we remember those who died at this season in years past, we take them into our hearts with our own, those for whom we're observing Yortzites this week. include Lisa Gay Arnold, Maury J. Ellison, Flossie L. Golden, Meyer Hyman, Lynn Just, Bertie Frank Katzenstein, Isidore Cooperman, Nathan Levi, Joseph J. Levy, Zell E. Lipson, Joe Murov, Dr. David Safir, Flo Selber, Mayor Peter Paul Jacob Shamgar, Larry Shirley, Barbara Alkus 3-foot, Natalie H. Weiss, and Charles Zelinsky. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we rise as together we praise your name. The Mourner's Kaddish is found on page 154. The translation is on 155. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon u'v'yom echon, u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv, v'imru amen. Yehe shalama Rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yehe shmei Rabba mevarach, la'alam almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shmei d'kudsha brichu leila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shalama Rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. Please be seated. Sorry, I kicked into autopilot mode. I hope that you join us for our Oneg Shabbat that will be in about half an hour. As soon as I can get home, we'll turn it on. And if you get there and it says that the password's not working, it means I'm not there yet. But I want to remind you what it means to be a just and compassionate society. Our world is working hard at trying to figure it out right now. Our country is making one step forward, 2 steps back. We're working on it a lot. Of the people who we mentioned today in this list, I thought about the people we were connected to. We're David Safir, this is his first yahrzeit, and Flo Selber. And I just wanted to point out that of all of the kinds of rights that I think we're working on now, we're working on racial rights and we're working on what it takes to be an American. But one of the things that I'm watching in my world also that's been a difficult thing to deal with, and both Flo and David had made big strides in the LGBTQ awareness and making the world a better place, being holy because of the way they've treated it. And I am very, very grateful that we are in a congregation that is accepting and welcoming for everybody, and that and it was partially because of Flo's influence and the way she taught us what to do, thanks to Chuck, who I never got to know. But anyway, may our Seder plates always have oranges on them. and I don't want to leave on a note where we're sad. I'm sad, and I don't want to leave on a sad note. So with your indulgence, we can sing. I'll tell you what, let's do this. Everybody stand up. We'll do a closing blessing. We'll bless each other, and we'll sing on our way out. Max, I'll move into the center. As we bless each other because of who we are and how we accept who each other is, and learn that that's what it means to be holy, to be accepting of who we are and taking care of each other, we say, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you. May God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's face always be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. Shabbat shalom. Bim bam bim. You can march out while we're singing. Bim 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 bam. Chiri biri biri bim bam. Bim bim bim. bam, bim, 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 bam. Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Drive safely, bim, bum, bim, 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 bum, bim, 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 bum, chiri, biri, biri, bim, bum, bim, 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 bum, bim, 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 bum. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Stay holy. Stay safe. Oh man, those are